listener, and welcome to Chapter 15 of Bite-Sized Tales, the audio flash fiction podcast. In today's chapter, a young couple celebrates the birth of a child, but a dark secret turns it into something they didn't expect. Switched at Birth, written and read by Chris Hussey. A violent splash of rose and lavender-scented water. It hurts. It hurts. Something is wrong. Angeline gripped the hand of her beloved as she leaned forward in the birthing pool. Callan witnessed the desperation on his wife's face, the face that kept changing colors from white to ruby to even purple at times. Her hands never changing from ghostly pearl as they either splashed in desperation or clutched at the tub when the contractions came. He never felt so useless as a man and as her husband in this moment. The doula was nowhere to be found, or she was late, or gods knew what, and Callan knew nothing of childbirth. "My wife, I am here." He uttered the words, masking as much of his fear as he could muster, placing his hand on top of his wife's, as if to reinforce the attempt to comfort. Her response was only another gasp. Though Callan knew nothing of childbirth, he could tell that the pain she was feeling was not normal at all. His beloved was right. Something was wrong, and he was powerless to do anything about it. Callan strained his eyes to look below the water's cloudy surface. It was murky from blood and what he could only guess was another birthing discharge. "Just keep breathing, my beloved. When you feel our child wanting to come out, I think you are to push," Callan offered weakly, remembering something he had heard at one point in his past. Perhaps it was when a cousin was born. He could not remember. He wasn't even sure why his mind was trying to find the source of that knowledge. Perhaps it was in a vain effort to bring him his own amount of comfort and to ease his own growing fears. Angeline grunted, her face grimacing in pain and once again changing colors. "That is what the doula said, but she never said anything about being pulled. Something is pulling at me and our baby." Yes, that was where Callan remembered it from, their very own doula. "And my legs, Callan. My legs feel as if they are wasting away." She squeezed his hands with a strength he'd never known, causing him to wince at the pain. While the pain gripped his hand, fear gripped his heart, and a memory flashed forth into his mind. It was months ago, almost a year. His journey home. The battle that nearly cost him his life. The wounds that weakened his body, mind, will, and spirit. A flash of lightning and the gathering of storm clouds. The rain that started small but quickly became a torrent. And there, in the distance, through the sheets of rain, the light shining. Dim at first, but then growing, like a beacon of hope. A light that revealed a roadside inn. An inn that proved dry, warm, and welcoming. An inn with no other guests, save the proprietor, a pale woman, with hair like the sunrise, a field of dandelions in the summer. Her voice was soft and filled with kind words. The mulled wine she served, and served, over and over. His head spinning, music from somewhere, and her dancing, so seductive and enchanting, his resolve slowly crumbling. He broke, and then broke his vows. But was it a moment of weakness, or was it something else? Callan was never sure. The mead clouded his head, but he drank many times before and around countless temptations and never strayed. Was there magic in her music and movements? Magic to seduce him and steal his seed? He remembered seeing spiders. So many spiders, all black and small, always moving. Even returning to the inn months later, He found no sign or recollection of the woman. Since that night, he sifted through memories and emotions for an answer and found nothing except the whisper of her words, something he'd almost forgotten or ignored. What was it that she said? "Your seed in me, I will not be denied, mine forever." How could that be? I did not finish inside her. Or did I? What did her words mean? "Callan!" Angeline's screams broke his reverie. He stared at his wife in horror. All color was draining from her face, and the birthing pool was rapidly taking on a deeper shade of red. His wife's eyes were desperate, and she clawed frantically for her husband. As Callan held tight and made to lift her free from the pool, he looked at the water once again. As the red liquid sloshed to and fro, he swore he saw the white roundness and edges of bones bob out of the water's surface. The floor of the root cellar was cold, almost damp. Smoked meats and dried vegetables stood as the only witnesses to the spectacle before them. The boisterous sounds of music and laughter from the inn's patrons above provided an odd accompaniment to the woman who lay on the floor screaming in the pangs of birth. Despite the efforts of her pushes, her skin remained almost ghostly pale. Her hair, bright as a field of dandelions on a summer day, was matted and streaked with the cellar's dirt. She screamed again, the high pitch of her voice mixing with a low drone that rumbled from somewhere deep inside her. As the noise subsided, she gurgled, then spat. Black ichor dripped from the corners of her mouth, followed by a flickering movement just inside her parted lips. The movement revealed itself to be at first one tiny black spider, then another, and then another, turning quickly to a rapid march of them. Her legs spread wide, and she pulled back her now dirty and stained gown. Reaching down with both hands, they soon returned toward her face, holding a slick and wet newborn. Grabbing parts of the dress, the pale woman wiped the child clean. As she finished, the child coughed, then cried its first words into the world. As the last of the spiders left her mouth, the pale woman held the child close, allowing the arachnids to swarm over the babe like a living blanket to bring it warmth and comfort. "I will not be denied, mine forever," the pale woman spoke through labored breaths. This story once again came from an image prompt in the Gaming with Gage Discord, and it was much shorter, and so the challenge here to me was to expand it to make it fit the proper length for this podcast, which actually I think enhanced the story for me as I was doing it. I think the one thing I like most about this is leaving the ambiguousness of whether or not Callan strayed, if it was done on purpose or if he was beguiled in some way. I think leaving that up to the reader's interpretation is the fun part of the story for me. Hope you enjoyed it. This chapter of Bite-Sized Tales has been brought to you under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Intro and outro music is Fantasy Motion by Alexander Nakarada, provided under a Creative Commons 4.0 license. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, we'd greatly appreciate reviews and recommendations to your friends. For more information about our authors, please visit bitesizedtales.com. We look forward to reading to you next time.